shooter, big deer.
The fall is what drives whitetail hunters. It's year-round preparation for 15 seconds of chaos you just can't explain unless you've experienced it.
My heart is going a mile a minute right now.
The fall means something different to everyone, but for me it's leaves changing, cooler temps, the sound of a Coleman lantern, and those phone calls to friends and family after you release the perfect arrow.
Daddy just shot the big one.
The deer that you just said was a baby. Daddy just shot. It's a baby. I see baby.
You see, the fall isn't about a big buck harvest or even where or how you shot it. It's the time of year and everything that comes with it.
Oh my God. This is unbelievable.
Welcome to the Fall Podcast, Season 9. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Today is, what is it, March? Is it March? No, April. April 28th today, I believe it is. I don't know. Days are running together, but we have another episode of Film the Fall here on the Fall Podcast. And today I have Jared Scheffler with me. Jared Scheffler from Whitetail Adrenaline. If you guys have never heard of him, I'd be very shocked. He is an OG. He is the GOAT in my eyes. He started Whitetail Adrenaline back in 2006, 2007 timeframe, and he was one of my inspirations, still even to this day, of doing what he's doing, production, filming, editing, and we talk for almost 2 hours of just nonstop geeking out on production stuff and stories about, kind of diving into some of the stories that he's laid down over the years that you may have seen on Whitetail Adrenaline, some gear he's used, and just some honestly selfish things that I want to know about how he does things behind the scenes when it comes to the production of his features. And really cool thing is you can rent Uncut now. He's going to start dropping those, I think he said weekly, on his website. So whitetailadrenaline.com, go there. You can rent it and watch it right on your device. So he's been DVD for all this time, and now he's trying to find another outlet to get his content to the masses. So that is one thing I definitely want you guys to go check out. I almost have all of his DVDs. There's a few gun hunting DVDs I don't have. All the bow ones I have. And it's a staple. Every year I'll pop one in and just let it run and watch it for hours. And I love it. It takes me back to, where he started and just reflecting on how far he's come, and it's really engaging, awesome content. And what's really cool is I bought his first DVD, the preliminary run, at Jay's Sporting Goods in Clare years ago. I mean, this was right after it came out. So really cool DVD, really cool to see where he started and now where he's at. A lot of work, time, effort has gone into it, and it's pretty cool. So today's podcast is with Jared Scheffler. It's going to be a banger. I just geeked out. And Jared is what I like to call my white whale in a way. I've been wanting him on this podcast for years. And honestly, he's been on some podcasts talking a lot about his hunting thing, which how he hunts and everything, which I really am intrigued by, but I'm more intrigued on the production side from Jared. So really cool conversation today. I don't want to stay too long with this intro. I want to get over to this interview with Jared and get right into the nitty gritty, but hopefully everybody's out there turkey hunting and getting after it. Go check out, like I said, Jay Sporting Goods. You can get a lot of turkey hunting gear there. Clare or Gaylord location in Michigan. Calls, turkey vest, guns, ammo, you name it. Go get it. Decoys, another thing. So we are here. It's turkey season. Get after it. We're going to hit you with some partner reads here, and then we're going to get over to this interview with Jared Scheffler. I'm here to tell you Jay Sporting Goods is the ultimate one-stop shop for everything outdoors. I mean, from hunting essentials and fishing gear to small camp comforts that honestly can just make your life easier in the woods and your experience even better. Whether you're gearing up for deer season or heading out into the water to chase fish, now that could be in a boat, on a dock, or it could be hard water like in the winter. Stop by J Sporting Goods in Clare or Gaylord. You'll find everything you need for a successful season, and probably a few extras you didn't know you needed to make camp life a little easier. J Sporting Goods, trust the tradition. Not only does this keep you in the woods longer, which usually yields more success, but the company and the owners and everybody behind it are top-notch individuals. Osteo Gear was created to maximize a bow hunter's efficiency and effectiveness while hunting from a tree. The Osteo Raptor pattern is inspired by one of nature's top tree predators and master of camouflage, the owl. But concealment is just the beginning. Osteo Gear allows you to stay in the stand or saddle longer thanks to exclusive fabrics and highly functional features built for real-world conditions. From bitter cold and high winds to rain, heat, and sun, Osteo Gear keeps you comfortable in any situation. And the best part about it, Osteo Gear has you backed by a lifetime guarantee, no questions asked. So if you rip a pant or a zipper breaks, just call them up and they got you covered. Also look into their new Rapax camo, which just came out last year. Learn more at osteogear.com, and right now for the Fall Podcast listeners, use the code FALL20 to save some money on your next purchase. With 2026 here, now it's time to look back at last season and ask yourself one question: how can I make my setup even better? Latitude builds meticulous design mobile hunting gear for both private and public land hunters. Their system is truly turnkey, built to move efficiently, adapt quickly, and meet the demands of hunters chasing every opportunity, whether that's public ground, private land, or anywhere in between. Based right here in Michigan, Latitude holds themselves to a higher standard. Not just in the gear they design and build, but in the experience they want every hunter to have in the field. If you're serious about mobile hunting in 2026, visit latitudeoutdoors.com to learn more. And right now for Fall Podcast listeners, you can save 15% by using the code THEFALL at checkout. All right, guys, we're back for another episode of the Fall Podcast, and we're continuing down the series, Film the Fall, and I have the GOAT, my GOAT, Jared Scheffler on. I had to say it because it's we'll get into it a little bit today, but you have been very influential to me just in the time frame around that 2006, 2007, 2008 time when you just started Whitetail Adrenaline, and I was trying to honestly just steal ideas from what I was seeing on your DVDs to kind of learn more that way. So this has been a long time coming, and I greatly appreciate you coming on and doing this, man.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. And that's what creative producers do, right? They look at other work and they're like, hey, that's a pretty cool idea. And then they put their own pizzazz and maybe, so it's interesting. Way back when I started, I had a select handful of movies that I watched multiple times, and I was just like, what makes these movies rewatchable? And, I kind of drew some conclusions. I mean, they were movies far, far different than, say, hunting productions in many aspects, but there was there was different things with each of them that made them multi-watches, not just for me, but they were for a lot of people too. And so I tried to from the beginning, I don't want them to be one-time watches. I want them to be rewatchable. People pick up things the second or third time that they missed the first time and whatnot. And so there's a lot of different things that can create that. And so that's something I've always tried to do with them. But yeah, I mean, you know how it is, creative work like that. There's so many, that's one thing I love about production is, as you know, there's so many micro decisions
daily.
And on a big project, it's literally millions.
Yes.
And it's a combination. That's why you could hand the same content to 1,000 editors and it comes out different, is because of all those micro decisions that get made that yield the final product. There's no one giant thing that makes, it's just a combination of many micro things. And then, wow, people watch it and they're like, they don't think about all the micro things that it takes to eventually it compounds into a great piece of work. So.
Yeah, and I love that you said that, because we're gonna get right into it here, and I love that. You know, I have a one of my really good friends. He's a work colleague as well. He does the same stuff I do, production stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, he might do an edit. He's a lot younger than me too. So I'll hand up my style that I other than like what yours style is. What I really like is like a Heartland Bowhunter storytelling type. But then I also look at like a Whitetail Adrenaline or what my buddy Derek does, and it's like, holy shit, man. Like that, I would have never edited that way, but you have me captivated, and I want to learn that now. You know what I mean? And it's like, I almost feel like now with my edits, I feel I have to be so uncomfortable with the edit that I'm like, nobody's going to like this. And then when I hand it to somebody, they're like, you fucking killed it. And I'm like, really? Like, you know, because I did TV for 11 years, and I've been in this profession for almost 15 now. And it's like, you know, I started in 2011 producing TV shows on Outdoor and Sportsman. And then it's like, there was a copy and paste almost. Like this is how it had to be. The kill was in, you know, the third segment, the, you know, cliffhang going into commercial break, stuff like that. It was very status quo. Then in the advent of social media, you know, short-term content, swiping, whatever, everything flipped. And I had to make a decision of like, dude, you have to adapt or die. And I'm still going through that adapt stage. Is that something you're like fighting with every day?
A bit, because it's challenging, because like our model, people purchase the content, which is not a lot of that in hunting. Most content is free. And then it's like, well, it's got to be okay. There's there's pros and cons to, you know, negatives and positives to whichever, you know, method or direction a person goes. But one of the challenges with paid content in a space that most everything is free is it has to be good. Otherwise, why are you know? So that's one challenge. And then it's long format. So long format is even more challenging to hold people's attention. In a free space, that's hard. Then they're paying for it. It's hard. And then, now you've got all the 5, 10, 15 second short, you know, side of things. Well, I don't know exactly what to do with that. I'm kind of like experimenting a little bit, because it's like, you can't tell the full hunting story even in an hour on a lot of hunts to the level that would maybe give it its full entirety but then also you can bore the viewers if you take them through every little tiny, you know, thing that happens, you know, so you got to shorten it up. There's like with long format, it's like you want to tell the story and everything, but it's got to keep moving, otherwise it doesn't hold people.
How do you? I almost have all your DVDs, and I've almost burned them out and watching them so much. But like you talk about you don't get emotionally attached to a piece of public or a piece of property. Like you've said that numerous times. You try not to. Yeah, exactly. But it's hard. So then, like, on the flip side, how do you not get emotionally attached to a storyline when you're putting an edit together? How do you not get emotionally attached to something that, like, you think it needs to be longer, but the viewer is like, they're gonna get bored on this? How do you? I know, and it's like hard. Everything we're gonna talk about today, everybody listening, is like so, like it's you can't unpack every bag. Creative, like literally every edit day to day, to me is different, you know?
Yeah.
I did an edit 2 days ago. I got to the point, almost to the finish line, and I'm like, I got a roadblock, and I had to step away. I stepped away for a full day, came back, finished it. I'm like, dude, nailed it.
That's a lot of times. That's that happens all the time. I have a handful of other creative producer friends and whatnot that, I mean, that's a common thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could sit there at the computer for 2 hours pulling your hair out trying to like, but then you step away for a half hour, 2 hours, come back, or like you did a day, and it's boom. It just, the wheels, oh, wait, this is how I can do this, and I've had to learn that because I've had to learn that so often if I'm struggling with something, I will move on to something else, or I'll take a break from the whole thing entirely. And often if you take a break all the time, well, then but I found that sometimes if I'm struggling with a piece, I'll go to something else entirely, so I can still get some work done, and then I'll come back to it. And if it's still stumping me, I'll maybe step away for the computer entirely, or rather than sit there and fight it if it's not coming, because like you just said, that happened. We're not alone in that.
Yeah, I know.
That's the way the creative mind works a lot of times.
In the
like, boom, 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 and then it's like, whoa, I don't know what to do with that.
Exactly. In the non-creatives, it's kind of hard. Like even maybe a client, it's hard for them to like fathom. Like, wait, you stepped away for like a couple hours, and it's like, it's just hard to explain the creative process. In every project, it's different. I've had projects where they just come together. You can't make a wrong click. And it's like, wow, happens very, very little, but it's happened. But I guess back to the initial question, I kind of deviated there. How do you not get emotionally attached to like a storyline that needs to be drawn out, but you're like, shit needs to move, man? Because your content moves. It moves constantly. Yeah.
That's easier to let go of those now than it was for many, many years. That ate up a lot of time, because here's what happens, and I'm sure you can relate to this, is you get into the edit, and in the earlier stages of it, it's like you spend time working on this piece that you think has got good potential, and then maybe it doesn't, but you've invested all this time and effort. So now it's like, you become kind of like, well, because I put so much into this, you feel like I have to see it through. And over the years, that's a struggle, but I got a lot better at just like, you know what, if I put 10 hours into that, and now I'm seeing that it's just not, I just got to cut my losses on it. And like, that's 10 hours lost of waste or whatever. But it's not going to satisfy the viewer maybe as much as I thought in the earlier stages. And I think over time that caused me to have a little bit better eye in the early stages of, before I get too carried away, is this worth dedicating a lot of time to, and making a decision, and before doing a bunch of work, like, okay, maybe I'll come back to that, but let me work on, okay, this I know is absolutely, gold of a storyline or whatever. So work on that and then come back. And then it's like, you know what? I know what to do with this now. I do want this, or it has a place, but I'm a lot more efficient working it now because but if I would have started there, I could have spent all kinds of time in it,
Has that changed how you think and shoot and produce in the field when you got the camera in your hands?
Not terribly. Because our format's on the fly, unscripted. So you don't record enough in the field. You don't have enough to work with in the post to tell the story. You record everything too much, and it's an editing nightmare. It already is in that format, like a normal movie producer edit. Well, I don't want to devalue that by any means, but most of that, they get a note from the producer, use take 3 of scene 4. So they got the notes of exactly what shot to use. But in the unscripted world, you're the writer, your keyboard, and like you're writing the story. The story's already written by the producer, the recorder out in the field hitting the record button. So all the content is there. Like in the unscripted world, I kind of I've used the reference to like a writer. Like, I want to write a book about your life or whatever. Write down everything about it that you can, and they hand you 1,000 pages, and I got to get it down to 50 or 10 or something. That's kind of what it's like in the unscripted world, and we can't go back and recreate and refilm stuff. So that's very challenging to edit, because you're the writer at the same you're making all the decisions. As an editor, you're making all those decisions, and they're very hard to make when you got a lot of massive amounts of content. Massive amounts of content can yield a great product in the end, but it's a fine-tooth comb of like piecing it all together, and it's like a big giant mess of like, okay, I don't need this, but I think I do, but maybe I don't, but that's very challenging. And that's just getting the story where you need it. Then you got to make it sound good, and then you got to make it look good, and tighten it all up so it flows, and there's a lot of elements that have to happen to make long format really move and hold people. It's not easy.
It isn't. And that shift has happened too. Kind of go back to my TV thing. Like, we shot a lot of stuff to edit. It's shot to edit, for TV stuff. It wasn't, there was, I shouldn't say a lot of downtime, but there's more times than not that you're not filming. Like, now our format, even on what we're doing on Grit, is like same as Whitetail Adrenaline. Like, and that's hard for me because, when I film now, it's like I have to actively tell myself, like, dude, you need the camera right now. We need to be, the way I look at it is, it's almost like, every day, a day in the life when Jared goes out and does this thing, like, it needs to all be filmed. It's like a Barstool thing. I don't know if you're familiar with the Barstool content, but they are constantly, there's a phone on someone or there's a camera on someone, and it's like, it's, and then you get a mountain of footage, and it's like, where do you even start? It's intimidating, when you get to the edit bay, and it's like, and that was giving me one of my next questions to you is like, when you come back for, I guess typically how many terabytes is a season of Whitetail Adrenaline typically?
It depends on the season, but to complete, like uncuffed,
like uncuffed, like not even edited, just raw footage.
Okay, so just raw footage. I can't remember how many terabytes. I think it was 50, 60 terabytes, but we also record at a pretty, it's not ultra high, like red files would be huge. I mean, you'd be talking comparatively, I mean, in terabyte size, but that was around 500 hours of footage. But by the time you get done with all your, exports and uncompressed files and all that, you're over 100 terabytes. I think I maxed it out the RAID. I just barely had enough on that tower. And I think that hit like 112 terabytes. It was 144 terabyte RAID, but I set it up so if you lose 2, you're still good. I'm glad I've had that happen a few times over the years, and I have to keep running it that way because that would be devastating.
So in this year, our season was 24 terabytes, which is the most that we've had, and we're running like 10-bit 4K, on everything. And but, I guess when you get back to an edit bay, I know you have other editors too. Are you more of the finish editor, or are you guys
more so?
Okay,
more so. For a lot of years I did it all, and then the rough cut side, getting it somewhat there, but I got to go in and, like, let's say we have we figure it's going to end up being around 2 hours for this feature. Usually what I get is about 4 hours, and then sometimes you get it flowing pretty good at about 2 hours, and it's like, but it's still missing things. So you got to go and find something to kind of tie it. But, that's better, I think, sometimes done at the end if it's needed to grab a little something to,
I get that. But, so like when you started roughing it, like if you're doing a whole project yourself, you get into the edit bay, you boot on the computer, and you're going to start cutting. And I know this is going to be very broad and it's going to be different probably for every project, but like typically, are you going through and trying to lay out your whole storyline first? Like no music, there's no finessing, no sauce, no nothing. You're just like looking at talks, probably syncing up cameras because you got a lot of POVs going. Dude, I don't even want, like, it's going to be one of my questions for your POV, like when you're in the car, and how many hours of footage those POV cameras have. Because I feel like there's sometimes where Chancey's like, he's been gone out of the car for 3 hours. He comes back, he's like, oh, you're still on, like you're still going. I'm like, what the hell?
I mean, that was, sometimes it accidentally forgets, or gets bumped or whatever. So, which sometimes you get some pretty, it's like, oh, you got this hour clip where they forgot that it was recording. Sometimes you get some good stuff in that.
It's the best stuff, probably.
But then sometimes you can waste a lot of time and get, you can spend hours, like, okay, it's an hour to watch, and then like, ooh, this is good, and then, you could make it, you could get down some rabbit holes with that.
Exactly. So I guess, when you get in the edit bay, are you just laying storyline out? Because there's a lot of stuff that you probably haven't shot and you're probably unfamiliar with. So you need to familiarize yourself with everything.
I think sometimes that's easier. There's, earlier on for a lot of years, I thought that would be very difficult, but it's actually not. Like, once you know what you need to tell a good story, it's actually, I think, almost easier, because you're not, sometimes if you were there filming it, you get attached to the story more, and you also get attached to events that sometimes maybe didn't get captured to the, like, your eyes are recording everything all the time, right? Like, but then you get into the edit, and sometimes it's like, why didn't I record this and this and this and that? But you're kind of attached to that event because you were there for it, and you want to make it work. But if you're not there for the filming, you have less attachment up front. But if you know what you need to tell a good story, that sometimes I think is easier to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe I would say if a person is an editor and they have no hunting background, that's a little different for a little bit, because it's like, well, you don't know what's cheesy or what's, like fit, what entirely, makes sense. You know what I mean? It could get jumbled up a bit.
Yeah.
But so
I get that. I mean, I'm just telling you right now, face-off e-bikes change the way I hunt. Whether it's saving time, cutting scent, or turning long walks into quiet, efficient access, it's just there. It just works. Whether you hunt the hills or flat ground, there are no limits. Check out faceoffebikes.com, and when you're ordering a hunter or switchback model, use code TFP to get a free front bow holder that's worth $100. When it comes to bowstrings, you want a custom set, and that's exactly what America's Best Bowstrings delivers. ABB offers a huge selection of colors, letting you build a string set that's customized exactly the way you want it. I'm a big fan of the Launch series, which is their top of the line option for performance and durability. Visit the website and use ABB String Builder to design your setup and see it come to life in real time. America's Best Bowstrings offers strings for compound bows, recurves, and crossbows. All you got to do is use the code TFP at checkout to save on your next purchase. Guys, are you looking to get an edge this next season? I think one thing that could definitely give you a little added edge is the Moon Guide. The Moon Guide predicts when deer are most likely to move by factoring in lunar positioning, time of year, and historical movement data. The theory is simple. Whitetails tend to be most active when the moon is overhead or underfoot. Overhead is when the moon is directly above your location. Underfoot is when the moon is directly beneath you. These windows create the strongest gravitational pull, which is believed to help get deer up and moving. But the Moon Guide is more than just movement predictions. It's the #1 hunt planning app, giving you wind mapping, red moon predictions, stand-specific intel, a weather channel tab with moving wind currents, a built-in journal, and more, all in your pocket. Check it out on the App Store or head to www.moonguide.com for more info. All right, I got a question for all of you guys. All you guys that hunt private, whether it's permission piece, whether it's a lease, or you own it, are you looking to gain an edge? That's my question to you. If you are, Everlyn Outdoors is the answer. Everlyn creates custom maps of your property using high-tech drones that capture a series of images stitched together to produce the highest quality map of your farm. Everlyn has drone pilots in all major whitetail states, so no matter where you hunt, they can help you map your property. I personally really like the feature where I want to see the map on the wall, and I can actually put my hand up with where, the weather channel tells me the wind's coming from, and I like to see where the wind is going to go through the farm. Now, it's just a good starting point, but it's really cool, and I really like to see a visual aspect of that. So learn more at everlynoutdoors.com and take your hunting strategy to the next level. If you're going through and putting a storyline together, are you a guy that wants to know, like, from the first clip that was recorded to the end of the season, do you want to have like little bullet points in your head or jotted down of like, Tanner did this on this day, like, so you don't forget? Like, do you want to know all like some, most of the storylines of the year so you can kind of think about those in your head as you're putting it together? Or are you just like, I'm going to take this day by day, and wherever the freaking wind takes me, that's where I'm going to go?
Well, a lot of years, that's exactly what happened. Every day, every clip, everything got gone through. But the problem is it's you film 500 hours of footage. That's 500 hours to watch it, let alone now you're going to start making millions of micro decisions to get it down to 15 hours, like on that project. I mean, that's a quarter of a work week just to watch, or a year to work year, just to watch it, let alone you're going to edit and, to that level. I mean, so you got to find ways we found that it's like having a little bit of notes on things helps get rid of the mountain quicker, and focusing more on the things you absolutely need first, and then bringing in the which there's a certain degree of loss that happens of those tiny little like, oh, that's gold, because you're not going through everything anymore, but you're going through a lot of it, so you're still getting quite a bit, but you kind of, that's another thing, like you gotta cut your losses on some of that.
Dude, so. I agree with you. I can't sit there. I've done it before. I mean, when I started doing the editing, we were on tapes and tape decks, so you had to pop the tape in and Final Cut, you couldn't just drag and drop. It didn't even take MOVs, if I remember right. Like you couldn't drag and drop. You had to like capture scratch. Like you had folders that were called capture scratch, and like you had to watch it on a TV. So then I would be like, I gotta watch this whole 3-hour tape. So I guess I'll jot some notes down again. But
Yeah.
you know what I've started doing after that, like when Premiere came on and it was more of like a digital drag and drop thing, and I would make sure when I was on a trip filming, I had a notepad just like this for every year, and I would just day by day, like high notes. Hey, great encounter with a buck right here. Great sound bite. Need to use this. So in 6 months, when I come back to the edit, I can jot through that, and it's like, oh, I forgot. I didn't, jog your memory a little bit.
You got a little bit.
Yeah. But like you said, going through 500 hours of clips, that ain't for me, dog. Like, I'll fall asleep at the keyboard.
I tell you what, I don't think it's for anybody. They might
It's not.
think it is, but I mean, that amount of time behind a computer screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
a lot.
So.
You'll get burnout, which you experienced, a few years ago. Like, you were open about that a lot of like, and I felt for you. Like, it's tough, like right now, even myself just sitting down to do a minute ad, it's like, man, it's like pulling teeth sometimes for me to get my ass to bolt down to the seat. And it's like, but it is what it is. So I want to go back here. I want to go back to the beginning because I'm genuinely interested in like when you started Whitetail Adrenaline, what was it, 18 years ago? Something like that? Or
Yeah. I mean, it was in the works around that 06, even 05. I mean, I had bought what was a professional computer system in 04, and really I bought over $1,000 in DVDs of training for Premiere Pro, After Effects, all that. It was called Total Training. And I think it was about $1,500 in DVDs total. I, bought all of them DVDs because you didn't have YouTube training and online training and stuff like that. And yeah, that's how I got a lot of my learning, at least the software side of editing and producing, is I learned how to use the software. It was Premiere Pro 1.5 back then. And yeah, I think I still got all them Total Training DVDs. I'm pretty sure I've got them. I had them just not too terribly long ago, but I might have pitched them, but I think I kept them as relic, yep.
That's awesome.
So, I was kind of in the early stage, the stages of learning this, how to edit to a certain degree with professional software for a few years prior to doing the first one. So
yeah, so that was gonna be my question. You grew up on a farm in Wisconsin, and you can work on just about anything, and fix shit and whatever. And what made you want to be behind a computer and a camera and be the technical side? Like, I could only imagine. I don't know your dad, nothing like that. And I'm sure he's farmer is like, what the hell are you like? This is what you want to do? Like, what made you want to do that?
Well, I tell you, I loved hunting, and I loved archery too. I worked in a sports shop there for a couple, 2.5 years, I think, kind of on the tail end of into high school some. But I found that I was in the archery shop all the time. So, and I loved that, but I loved hunting too.
Yeah.
So, and I had, when I was 16, I got a nice video camera at that time to film hunts. Didn't know anything about stories or storyline. But interesting thing, when I was 15, I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to own a computer when I was 15. But I think I took a class in high school, and there's so many different forms and types of art, but I am kind of an artist in that, well, not kind of, in that aspect. I'm an artist. Some people an artist by drawing or painting or what, but this is creative art, where you're working with sound, picture, story. It's very dynamic. And I got to where I loved it. And I loved the, in them early years too, learning the software and challenge, back in that era, it's not a lot of people, it isn't like now. It's like, it was really a feat to learn that stuff back then. And, so yeah, I grew to like it, and, I still do enjoy it. I just, I'm sure you can relate to this too. It's like, if you're not careful, you can get immersed in it, and next thing you know, the sun's coming up.
Oh, dude.
That now I have a lot better discipline, and will just, even if the creative work is going great, okay, I'm going to go for a half hour more because it's really come together, but that's it. Like it's like, cause when the wheels are turning and it's going, it's like the time flies, I wouldn't be able to begin to guess how many times I've been behind a computer for 24 hours straight. 40's quite a few, many, I don't know if it's 100 or 50 or what, but it's a lot, not too much past 40, but there's been a couple around that 60-hour mark. So without sleep behind a computer, that'll, it ain't good, no. So, but now I've got pretty good discipline in terms of, even if the creative work's going really well, okay, I'm going to push it a little bit longer, but then that's it. And, because it's not good. So.
I agree. I did that when I was younger in my career, just like, hey, didn't have a kid, I was, my wife now, we were just dating, and it's like a lot less priority. And it's like, hey, I'm just going to stay at the studio and just edit a little bit longer. But I will say now I have an 8-year-old daughter, coach her softball team. I'm very invested in everything she's got going on. And it's like, man, if I don't hit the sheets, I'm going to be a bag of ass tomorrow. It's like, I got to do something. But I will say, if you can discipline yourself, like you said, for me anyway, like, it makes me more eager when I get up to get out of bed and be like, dude, I want to get back in it because it was working yesterday,
Yeah. Well, and if you don't do that, if there's like, I dealt with this too, for a lot of years, like, because I did that so much, if I would take a little break and go do something for a day, which was pretty rare throughout the edit, it was like, boom, every day for weeks. That's all I'm doing. Months then. And then it'd be like, take a day and go, you couldn't even enjoy it. You're so fried. And then at the same point, you're feeling guilty because you're not behind the computer. There's like a psychological, you begin to feel guilty for not being behind the computer because that's what you're doing all the time. And I had to deal with that. But so I would caution people to get that a little better balanced earlier on, because it over time gets harder to
Well, it's like we said earlier on. It's like, it's okay to step away from an edit or something you're doing. If you got a roadblock, step away, man. You never know. You could be driving to the grocery store to get a pop or something, and it's like, dude, it just hit me. Like, that piece could go there. I could do that sound effect. Like, you come, and it's crazy how that stuff works.
Yeah.
But, I want to ask.
And then one other thing that used to happen too is like, oh, I've been going for 18, 20 hours. It's going really well. I need a little tiny break. So you run up the road, you get a couple energy drinks, and then, boom, you're there for another 12 hours. And it's like, that ain't good either. Like, I mean, just because you're putting an energy drink in and you're able to do it for another 12, 18 hours, that doesn't make it good.
No.
No. So, I mean, a lot of times, a lot of great creative work happened in that, but it's not good.
Yeah, I get it.
So,
What is some of your inspiration back in 06, 07 when you were starting Whitetail Adrenaline? What were some of the things, pieces you were looking at, maybe films, maybe TV shows, maybe whatever it might be, but like, what was something you kept going back to as inspirational? Like, man, I really want to kind of emulate something that's going on here.
okay, we talked a little bit early on about the movies, just straight up movies that were rewatch. The other thing that I did is when and I did this for years, probably leading up to, because there's quite a period in there I wasn't sure that I even wanted to go down this road of producing hunting content, but I'd sit around with buddies sometimes watching hunting content, and I wouldn't chime in much, but I'd observe what they said about this or what they said about that. But I'd sit back and take all that in, like, well, that gave me a pretty large sample size of what people find not real, fake, what throws people off, what jars them out of a hunt. And there was quite a few things of what I didn't want to have in the films. That was pretty established. I didn't really watch, much hunting content to grab, but I think that also kind of gave it its own uniqueness right out of the gate, is because I didn't try to, mirror
that,
yeah. But over the years I've, again, like more with big time productions, that's where I get, a new creative idea on something, or like, that happened as the years went by. Like the earlier films, they are very rammy, like which has, again, some positives, and then there's some negatives. As time has went on, I've found ways and areas to make them breathe a little bit when I feel like they need it, but there's a fine line, because you sometimes need that, but then sometimes it could get a little boring. But every viewer is different, right? So you're trying to
Yeah. No, and I like that answer, because, your very first DVD, you did spines. You there was a cutaway to you talking about what might be coming next. You know what I mean? Like, you just, and it quickly deviated away from that, but that was like the thing back then. That was how everything was ran, is you needed spines and interviews.
Yeah, and what happened there is the preliminary run. Actually, I got it right here.
Love that DVD, dude. I still love that DVD.
Yeah. The preliminary run.
Yeah.
This was filmed on tape too, like you were talking about earlier. It was an XL2. So I had already, in 04, I invested in a Canon XL2 and a bunch of equipment there too, and good audio gear. I needed some more going into this fall, so that's took up my budget for a new bow. So, So for those that don't, the first 5 years of the videos, I didn't own my own bow. I just kept rolling it back into what the company, what the production needed, what the company needed, or whatever, and used other people's bows. But the preliminary run here, what you're talking about there. Yeah, well, when we went into this fall, like, well, I'm not sure we're going to actually do this, but we'll at least film it. Mainly my cousin and I, and he had some good ideas and twists too to it that I, took into account. But when I got to editing it, I was missing some things because I didn't know that much about storytelling. I had a bit at that time, but there was some things so what you're talking about there, that got filmed in the spring on a public land swamp that Jim and I grew up on. That was the setting. But where I didn't have what I needed that was filmed in the field to kind of explain it. So there's not a ton of that, but there is some of that and that. And I never liked that. The little bit that I had to use in the preliminary run, I didn't, but it's part of the story of the production.
Part of it. Yep.
After that, it's never happened. The first one's got a little bit of that. After that, I kind of like, okay, editing and putting that together gave me another level of storytelling. And I was like, got to capture everything I need to tell that story in the field. Cause I don't like cutting to the, I mean, and there's a lot of productions that I do enjoy, nowadays, that like Steve Rinella's Meat Eater shit, he's awesome at it.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a very natural way. He's awesome at that, but I'm not very good forced in front of the camera. We get rolling on a podcast. I'm pretty natural, and same as if a camera's rolling, but you're going to put, okay, we got to do something that's hard for me to do. I'm not a very good, that's forced production. So I immediately, my wall goes up and I don't feel natural. I feel forced, so it's, which I've gotten better at that over the years for those types of, okay, we got to do, something, but I'm way better on the fly, way more natural. So that kind of goes back to that first, season. It felt a little forced to do those, but we also kind of needed it because we didn't have what we needed to fully tell the story. But there's, that's one cool thing about production is there's so many different aspects. And if you've got somebody that's really natural and good at that, that can add there's a lot of creative twists that can happen there to make something great.
Yeah. 100%. When you look back at, all the stuff, all the work you've done, and what are some things now when you look back at your younger self, just still wet behind the ears and learning and going, like, what are some things where you're like, man, I did that pretty well. And then what are some things you're like, man, I really, looking back, I'm like, that's what I would teach my younger self to do better. In production, you're talking? Anything, whether it's in the field shooting or whether it was behind the edit bay or whatever.
Yeah. In them earlier videos, I'm kind of torn on that because a lot of people love them old classics.
I love them.
And the way they're put together. But looking back, there's moments where I should have let things breathe a little bit more and whatnot. But then they have a classic kind of feel because they are that way. So it's like, it was around that 2015 that you had mentioned Heartland Bowhunter, and there was a few others, kind of coming out with a more of a cinematic type feel to them. And leading up to 2015 for a year or two, my buddy John Adams, who's another producer, we had a lot of discussions about like, okay, how can we keep Whitetail Adrenaline, that raw, unscripted, natural feel, but bring in some more like cinematic feel to it and capture, the setting and everything better and kind of blend the two. And it's like, can't give up that authentic, unscripted real, but how do you do that? Well, that was a pretty big challenge to figure out back then. And, we started to get that in 2015 with the Defiant season. And I think we did pretty well with it that first year, but then we could kind of build off of that. And then a couple of years in, Matt Ziniel, who's an incredible filmer and documenter, he brought his, and that's one thing too we haven't got to, is bringing in different creative artists in there, whether they're a filmer or whatever aspect they're bringing in. it's like, wow. I remember when Matt's first season and I got to work with his footage, I'm like, God, he's so good at capturing wides. I love it. I was like, well, what did that cause in me? When I start running a camera, I'm doing a better job of crushing the wides, because one thing I had done for years is, I'd get the wide, but when I went wide, I wasn't paying attention too much to what I was doing. So like when I got his wides, they were framed, beautiful, perfect, so many of them. And then it's like, wow, my wides are like amateur. Like I went wide and then I quit looking at the viewfinder. It's like I really appreciated that. So then that caused me to up my, so his influence in wides, that influenced me to do better at the wides. And that's just one aspect. There's many, and it's like, I think I went through this where I got good at wides. And then there was like a season where I was like, man, I really sucked at my wides this year. I got to get back on track, because it might've been Ethan, another fellow, that was crushing the wide. And I might have it was something where he was like, I was like, damn it, so,
yeah.
But
it keeps those creatives keep you accountable too, though. Like you said, it's like, when you feel like you could do things better, like bringing another guy in, and it's not a competition. I hate that, but like that broadens your horizons,
Yeah.
It's like
a fun competition.
It is fun.
Like that's what that's a healthy, which, I'd say in the earlier years, I was more like like barky about stuff, like, because you're going to go edit behind the thing. And, like audio, for instance, I'm out in the field and the guy's got his mic buried. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, cause I'm like, I know how hair pulling that's going to be in post to make audio sound good. So it's like, get that out of there, in my later years, I've gotten more like, I'll just walk up and adjust the mic and
Yeah. You want to minimize guesswork, right? So leave the guesswork behind with Garmin Zero bow sights. Set up the perfect shot and be ready for anything. Garmin is known for engineering purpose-built products for the field, and the Zero lineup is no exception. With instant ranging, there's no need to guess the distance to your target when it matters most. From the Zero A1 to the A1i and the A1i Pro with micro adjust, Garmin has taken the bow sight game literally to an entirely new level. Slow down the moment of truth and step in with confidence when confidence counts the most. Learn more at Garmin.com. Michigan-based, established in 2010, Prime Archery is an American-made brand that's earned its place at the top. Based in small-town Michigan, Prime prides itself on quality, precision, and perfection with no shortcuts. The all-new Prime Form and Prime Divide series bow is carbon without compromise. A true first of its kind, it features the AST, Advanced Structures Technology, delivering a lighter build while increasing stiffness and precision. Prime didn't just cut the weight, they raised the bar. The new American-made carbon rods increase stiffness by 47.5% while reducing overall weight by half a pound. The Form and Divide series still features Prime's proven core cam system and center grip riser, just like its counterpart, the RVX Plus, giving you an unmatched balance, consistency, and accuracy. In my opinion, Prime is up there competing with the big dogs in the bow world. To learn more, visit g5prime.com or stop by your local Prime dealer. Vitalize Seed Company is known for their 1-2 system. The Nitro Boost in the spring and summer to build your soil, followed by the Carbon Load in the fall to pull deer in close when it matters most. I actually shot my deer on the 13th this year, the deer I called Hawk, on this Carbon Load. Vitalize secret sauce is saving you time and money while improving your soil and helping you be more successful come fall. Vitalize offers several proven seed blends, including Clover Chicory Plus Oats, the Premium Clover Plus featuring 5 types of clover and chicory, the Annual Clover Mix, Forage Brassica Mix, a 5-seed blend designed for extreme tonnage, and every bag plants 1 acre or more. Learn more by following Vitalize Seed Company on social media or visiting vitalizeseed.com. I'm glad you brought up audio, because one of my questions was going to be something that I noticed early on in your productions that really stood out to me. And obviously being like doing what I do and being a creative, like it's hard for me to sit down and watch something and enjoy the content. I'm always like, hey, how are they getting that shot? How is the audio here? How did they do that? I almost have to go back and rewatch it to like really take my creative hat off and be like, let me immerse myself in the content now, and just enjoy it. One thing I really noticed early on was your audio was above and beyond. Like, I loved when the field producer, camera guy was 50 feet behind the hunter, and the hunter looks back and it sounds like he is right next to you. That was huge. And maybe sometimes the camera might've been out of focus or something like that. I didn't care because the audio was so crisp,
Right.
and it's a lot of people say is like, they don't realize like having good audio, or great audio, I should say, is just as important, if not more important, than the quality of the video, in my opinion. And when you can marry the two, it's just unbelievable. But I do want to ask this. Why do you have, or how, like, you might have like Chancey or somebody with like 3 lavs on. Why is that? Do you have it on 3 different cameras or what?
That was, I think that happened for one season. There was 2 or 3 seasons in there. I think it was where quite often there'd be 2, but then that one season there was 3, and we were testing a third thing. 2 of them were necessary for our systems back then, but then that third one was kind of test, so we could hopefully eliminate 2. And still, because I mentioned this early on. Like, I knew the importance of how good, I knew the importance of sound from the get-go, which is why I spent about $1,500 on sound equipment rather than a bow for the first film that I wasn't even sure we were going to actually produce it, but I knew we'd need it. So I overhauled some right from the get-go, and then sound's always been very important. And they know that in the movie, that's a pretty common thing in the movie making industry. 50%, they 50% is what they say, picture, that's the importance. And a lot of movies, 50% of the budget in post-production goes to sound. Mm-hmm. So you think about that, and they're recording that in controlled settings, not with 40-mile-an-hour winds, or if it is 40-mile-an-hour winds, they're getting everything, that's very challenging to go film in a hunting setting with all the guys whispering. His mic might be kind of buried. He's crawling through grass or leaves and all these extra noises and stuff. It's not easy to get really good sound, in that setting. And, that opens the eyes quite a bit to like, oh, they spend in the movie making business, they spend often 50% of the budget just on sound.
Yeah.
Because you can go record it with the best mics, and even in a controlled setting, but you still got to do a lot of work in post often. Obviously there's getting to be better tools and things to help, but, and also how are people consuming it? Like, I produce it and have since the beginning, like, people are going to watch this on a home theater system with bass and stuff. It's like, well, if they're just watching on a phone, you can kill a lot of wind by dropping your low, but you lose fullness of sound. And so I don't like to do that, and it's a very fine line to working with all that stuff. It's tedious.
Yeah.
So,
and there's one instance, I can't remember what year it is. You'll probably be able to tell me, but I think Chancey was filming you and had to leave, or maybe it was Shay. I can't remember, but you had to go on the ground by yourself, self-filming. And when I'm watching it for the first time, I'm like, there's no way he is going to self-film on the ground doing this. Well, you ended up coming up to that deer was sick Do you remember that? That we stalked him and it was getting like real low light. I think the camera was behind you a little ways, and you were like, you didn't even have a camera, if I remember right, like on you. It was just like you dead rolled it for you to like do your final ascent in to kill this deer that was bedded there. Or maybe he was even dead already. I can't remember. But I just remember the audio was so crisp. Even though that camera wasn't in your face like a camera guy, it brought me in so much into that. And I'm like, oh, what's going to happen here? You know, and then you get up to him and you kick him. He's like, you know, he's sick or he was dead already. I couldn't remember. But do you remember that instance?
Yeah, that one. Yep, I do. I didn't know if you were talking about that one or my first longbow kill. I self-recorded that too.
Yeah. No, it was.
I think that was the first self-recorded hunt that I had on the series. But I think the one you're talking about, it was late season.
Yes.
And
yes.
Yeah, it threw me for a loop because I went in there and snuck up, and he was like right next to the fence line, but he was on the other side of the fence. And I'm like, surely he's going to probably ran out of light, you know. And then the next day I glassed him up, and I'm like, well, it's late season. Sometimes they go, you know, back and lay right in this, but it just seemed kind of odd. Well, yeah, as it come out, he was injured, and I didn't know that. So,
yeah. But that instance right there with no camera guy, dead rolling a camera at a distance. I think you had a POV with you as well. I mean, I know you did, but having that audio was just crucial, you know?
Yeah. You gotta have that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, let me ask you this. This is gonna it's gonna be like, who's your favorite kid kind of thing, but any hunt that you've filmed yourself over the years, what has been your favorite so far? Kind of the one that maybe not necessarily your favorite, but like you always go back to, like, man, that was such a good time, that hunt.
Yeah. Gosh, you stumped me there for a minute.
Tough question.
I'll tell you one that it's very short. It's not out yet, but it's one with Chansey, and it's a giant typical. And it was very special because I got to film it. I didn't get to film the whole story leading up to it. Poor TC, he was filming it, and they were on this deer for like 4 days. You know, they could have shot him, you know, one night, but they didn't have uncuffed permission. They were on the public. The deer was close enough bow range, but he called the guy that night, got permission. And so they, you know, I mean, had they had that, they would have gotten it. Well, TC had to leave, and I kind of, you know, I mean, I had to swoop in there. And of course, you know, it's very short for me, but it's going to be a pretty cool story. And then how that all came together is pretty intense. I mean, he calls the deer. We're right on the edge of the public. He calls the deer. It comes over, crosses. He's 12 yards away. His arrow hits a horseweed as big as my thumb. The buck stays on the public, and he had just crossed. So, like, Chansey's probably, I don't know, 6 yards, 7 yards from the public line or something right in there. And then the buck came about, like I said, about 12 yards, I think it was, cross the fence. Well, most deer, if you would hit a weed like that, they're just going to run the other direction. That buck turns and runs parallel to him, flies by him at like 4 or 5 yards, and stops at like 18 in all kinds of weeds, and makes a beautiful shot. I mean, to us, it was a great shot. But anyways, it hit me. I'm like, that's the first buck that I've actually filmed Chansey shoot. So the only one that he's filmed me shoot was my big typical. And then that was a magnificent, cool typical. So that made that very special, you know, for me with that one. And then the newest film, the last hunt on it with Tanner, with this big giant wide mule deer, that's very unique, special hunt too. And the way that all came together, like, we got separated. The deer comes between us. And then I got the arrow coming out the other side, somersaulting. Like, when does that happen? It's a world-class animal. And it's like, gosh. It's like when that season, the new one, when the filming came to a wrap as a producer, I was like, oh my God, this season is incredible. Like, probably never get one like that again. Mm-hmm. So it's got very compelling stuff. And I haven't really put that compelling stuff out there yet on social media. Like, if you own the content, you know what's in it, but it's got some pretty solid stuff.
I can't wait to see it. When is the next film coming out? Do you have any idea?
Okay. That, I don't on the new one yet.
Okay.
I don't have, it'll be a smaller season. Just they're getting too big.
Yeah.
So
15 hours of
and
done.
The new one, that one's 9.75 hours, the one that came out late last fall.
Mm-hmm.
So
I got you.
And that one's got that big wide and some other pretty awesome hunts in it.
Yeah. So you guys are actively editing right now, the new season.
Yeah.
Would it be, have you caught up yet so you're editing last season or no?
No. We're a few years behind.
Well,
this.
It gets that way, man. It's a recipe for disaster, isn't it?
I tell you what, it hit me. I was about completed with the last edit. And I'm like, it feels like we haven't been producing these as much, but it hit me. I'm like, well, by the time I got wrapped up with the last one, in less than 5.5 years, I did 18 of them, 18 full feature discs. Resurgence was 6. So including all my edit time on that, Uncut being 7, the new one being 5, that's 18. That's more than I did the first decade.
That's unreal.
So it's, it's like, they haven't been coming out as often, but they've been big, so they've been big projects. So, and you know how it is in that type of production. It's like, just because if you got 7 versus 1, they don't get more efficient. If anything, it's longer to cross the finish line. So if anything, it takes longer. Yeah. I mean, disc 2 is going to take as much time approximately as 1. They don't get more efficient in that unscripted format because it's not cookie cutter. You can't really template it in any sort of way. So if anything, it's going to take 7 times longer, but because it's such a mountain to finish the line, it's harder to hang in there,
How many guys do you have editing for you right now?
So Uncuffed was Andy doing the sync and everything, going through it, piecing it to, getting it somewhat there, and then me finishing it. Okay. And then the new one, Andy, and then Ethan, and then I do more of the finish on the finish side. So, but it's what post-production. I mean, the easy part's the hunting and filming. I mean, that's the fun, easy part. I mean, once you know the format and know what you need, the filming's really, it's still a lot of, effort and work, but the post-production is the side that's very tedious and, it's behind a computer. So
gives me anxiety thinking about it.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I got a question for your big deer. Okay. You and Chancey were out there doing that. Still to this day, I was actually just telling my father-in-law about it the other day. Still to this day, the most unbelievable story, chain of events in the whitetail world that I think I've ever witnessed. I want to ask you a question about, and if Chancey's listened to this, I'm not shitting on you, Chancey. Like Chancey, I've never told him this. I've never met him.
Don't do that. He captured. That's the most epic.
I know, dude. It was
shot
amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. But what I'm getting ready to say is, like, he's not like a producer, right? He's not one that is going to be, or maybe he is. Tell me if I'm wrong. Is he a guy that's going to be like thinking a couple steps ahead of like storyline and stuff like that? Because my question is going to be, you chase that deer for how many days? The hunter side of you is in a state of mind of like, I got to find this deer and kill this deer. But then there's this other side that you have to produce this story as well.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I mean. I don't want to shit on Chancey. He might be an unbelievable producer. I don't know. But at that time, it looked like he was just kind of, I need a guy that's going to hold this camera and do the best he can. So how do you navigate like those two storylines when it's going crazy?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a hunter. He's a hardcore hunter.
And
right?
He's an unbelievable hunter.
and I struggled with this for a lot of years too, where it's hard. Like, it's hard to do both.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get immersed in the hunt, it's very hard to get to document and film what you need, especially with a situation like that, where it's like, you got a world-class typical whitetail and we just need to find it. It's very difficult to keep thinking, capturing storyline, and because him and I are very similar in that sense of like, you get sucked into, we just got to find this deer or whatever, I know what I'm going to probably need it in post. But that's been hard for me many, many times to do. It's
both.
challenging.
It's hard to do
both. Yeah.
When that deer is your biggest deer ever, you just laid down some of the most epic footage in whitetail adrenaline history. Longbow on the ground, sitting there for so long in the rain, batteries dying. Like, you have this emotional side of like a hunter, and you have to do hunting wise, but then it's like, but the other storyline is like, I got to make sure this is getting captured the right way. And then the reason why I ask is because a lot of the things the hunts that I go on now, the guys that are filming me typically aren't producers. They're guys that are familiar with the camera and can just lay down some footage. So I'm still producing in the background, and that's difficult sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and as a producer and as a post-production editor, you what you got a pretty good idea what you need as it's happening, right? So like, I need a visual of that right there, and I might have 2 seconds to get it. But if I don't get it, the viewer it doesn't convey the same story as what my eyeballs see, because the viewer's not seeing it now.
Right.
So, that's something it's challenging to do, especially in those plain states where you got a deer at a half a mile. Well, you got to try to figure out a way to get a visual of that, even if it's very low quality footage, at least something to visually for the viewer to, because a guy talking about it he can only talk about it so long without the visuals. So those visuals are, and we got some pretty good ones on that hunt, but like after I hit that deer, thankfully I had the cameras powered on, because I'm very, very on top of that. So making sure it's ready to go. In the early days, a lot of our content was filmed with a Sony EX1 camera.
Unbelievable camera.
I would always make it a habit, because I learned very quickly, like, sometimes you only have a second or two to get the shot you need, and I can't tell that deer to come back or whatever. So I made it just one example of what I'm talking about. I made it a habit back then to, okay, if I filmed a tight shot of something, just always back that camera out and always have it is quick to capture the next moment shot is possible. So like when that deer, after I hit him, runs out in front of that truck and is running down there, I happened to have the camera ready so I could get that few seconds of him running, but that's really compelling to the story. And if you miss the shot and he just ran down this road, that's not nearly as compelling as having the visual.
Yeah.
To go with it, so, and that's one thing in the unscripted space, that recognizing that gives you an advantage if you're an editor, because it's like, but it can also be like, you sometimes you don't get that shot and you're like, because you didn't have something ready, and it's like, I lost it.
Yeah.
No,
and I want to make it clear, Chancey did an amazing job. I wasn't trying. Yeah. That's why I want a disclaimer, like, not that he didn't do a good job. It's just, I don't think Chancey's thought process was to like lay down the best possible storyline after the deer got shot, But he did. It was unbelievable. He did a great job. I will say, when I was watching that, I really felt like, because you guys were after him for a couple days, right?
Yeah, 4.
I felt like Chancey was like, all right, dude, just like, let's wrap her up here, like.
Well, he was, but that was, I think, day 3. I think, he was very into it by that. But then, we've all had a buddy that has put a non-fatal hit on an animal, or most of us probably have if we've hunted long enough. And eventually, your buddy's got to help you get over the hump, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So that's what he was trying to do.
Let's pick him back up.
He obviously he wanted me to get the deer, but it's like day 3 and you're 3.5 miles from where you last seen him, and pushing 6 from where the initial shot happened, and you're checking ditches and whatnot. Yeah. It's warranted to be like, yeah, we should probably time to move on. It's,
nobody really wants to say it, but it's like, we got to address the elephant in the room.
Especially the guy that made the non-fatal shot. He's the last one that's going to often throw the towel in, so, but
when you staying on that deer, when you ended up ultimately getting the kill shot, the last shot on him there, how far was that from the initial shot? I can't remember.
That was so that was about 2 miles. Okay. Mile and three quarter probably. He had done a figure 8, so to speak.
Yep.
Kind of an ugly figure 8, I guess. But yeah, that would have been right around that mark. And I wish I could have gotten the final shot. The camera turned, but it was just too hairy of a situation for me to get to the camera. He probably would have detected me.
Well, and at that point too, like, it would have been great to get the shot, but like the story had already unfolded.
Yeah.
You just needed the deer now,
Yeah.
And that's the other thing about filming hunts is like, it's one thing, I've filmed hunts that like you show up the first day and you kill on the first day and you're like,
what am I going to make out of this?
What am I going to make of this? And like,
right.
Cause I drew Iowa this last year, and I made 3 trips, and I ultimately ended up killing one, but all my buddies are like, oh, wouldn't you want to go out there and just kill on day 1? I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. But like for the footage, like, no, like, when I look back,
a few days is optimal, at least.
Exactly. And when I look back at the whole trip and the story and what had happened through that, it's going to be a 1 to 2 hour film when I get it done. And it's like everything happens. I have some personal things go on. I go to full draw on this deer I was hunting. He wouldn't stop. When he would stop, he's behind a tree. I had to let him go. I go full draw on another deer. I shoot the deer that I went full draw on. The second trip, hit him high. He runs literally, I watch him run for like a mile and track him, goes over a property line. We can't get permission to go on there. ultimately, I go back home. The deer shows back up on camera live. I go back. It's wild. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, man, if that would, I got my money's worth. I can only go every 5 to 6 years, and I got my money's worth of Iowa. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. But
yeah, yeah, they're tough animals. You know, like you were talking about hitting that one high in the newest film, Reckoning 3. I mean, Tanner hit this one high, and the next morning that deer's breeding does. You could see, and he's kicking off another buck and just like carrying on like it never happened, which was cool to you know, you hear those stories all the time about deer hitting high and they show up back on cameras, but just to showcase, okay, that was an afternoon pushing into the evening shot, and the next morning he's running bucks off, breeding a doe, and you can clearly see you know, the spot where the air, you know, in and out, you know, on him. And it was like cool to see just a situation. I mean, it's not ever cool to hit one and not recover it, but to see how fast he's just carrying on, you know.
It's crazy. They are tough, man.
Yeah.
A couple more questions if you got some time, if you don't mind. Your battery situation. You guys are out in the vehicle all day. You have multiple vehicles. How many, do you have a pile of batteries, or do you constantly have something that's charging them in the vehicle whenever you're in there?
Yeah. I mean, we do have that option, but it's such a hassle sometimes. We've got enough batteries to leave the camera on all day. And that's what I prefer, even though the hours meter gets pretty high. You know, it's like, you know, those moments, you miss them if the camera's powered down. By the time you get it powered up, it's like, well, that's 2-3 seconds lost, and I could have got that shot, and I missed the shot. So I have enough batteries to you know, obviously those are pricey too, you know, but it's pricey to not get the shots, you know, and then in post, when you're trying to edit, if you don't have what you need, you're fighting it. So you're much less efficient there trying to, you know, work a piece of where if you have everything you need and it's like, okay, boom, it comes together. You know, you were talking about earlier, some edits coming together. So, well, when you have all the pieces you need and it's got all the dynamic, it comes together beautiful.
100%.
So that's very important in the unscripted world to, you know, have that stuff ready to capture what you need.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree. What cameras are you running now? Like your main cameras?
FX9s.
Okay. Do you like them a lot?
I love them. And, you know, for a lot of years, it was like every couple of years, it was like there was enough features packed into cameras that it's like, man, you wanted to up, you know, but these ones, when I got them, they had enough features that I was like, I'll probably run these things till because I mean, they got good enough and, you know, good enough picture, good enough everything to where it's like they'll stand the test of time for a decade easy, you know, probably 15 years of, you know, of course you're going to maybe have features like 8K and, you know, some extras, high frame rate, slow motion on a camera or something. But for filming unscripted raw, I mean, they cover the base. That camera covers the basis really well. I mean, you know, we experimented years ago with the DSLR and Sony A7S II, but just run and gun unscripted filming, it's tough. We just can't get what we need nearly as well as something like that. But they're also bigger and heavier and more to handle, but the end production is better because of it. So, but they're tanks. You know, tanks, yeah. I mean, they're built really well too. You know, it's like haven't really had much for issues with them.
Yeah.
So,
how many setups do you have with those?
4.
You have 4 of them.
Yeah, and 2 with the big zoom lens setups for when we need that, to get out there. But those are 32-pound rigs, and I put them on the scale. That's not just an imaginary number. They're 32 pounds. So, I mean, there was a few years that's what we were crawling around with. Now we got 2 of them set up to about 17 pounds. So that's much easier to crawl around and, belly crawl and then doing a 32-pound camera, but definitely love the zoom and everything on the big ones.
Yeah. Have you downsized microphones like lav mics? The DJIs now are just like so small and everything. And have you experimented with that?
Yeah, I don't really like that Rode, or it's the Rode one that clips on or whatever, but DJI's come a long ways in what they're offering and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of good audio solutions out there. But yeah, that stuff's, I mean, you still got to do a lot of work in post if you in that type of environment, to make it sound really, really good. But it helps if you're using really good gear too, So, which that stuff's also not cheap, but good stuff. It lasts a long time. Like good shotgun mic. Well, some of them out there, some of the best ones out there, they've been around for 25 years. They've maybe made one slight change to it, but they'd stand the test of time pretty well, the higher end stuff. So, of course, lav mics, that's a whole nother story.
Oh, dude, they're in pockets. The wires, the Sennheisers, they'd always get bent over in your pocket, or the one shotgun mic that I felt like you could throw off a mountain was the Sennheiser ME66. Was like an unbelievable shotgun mic. It sounded great, and that thing was built, like you said, maybe made one modification in decades, and it's still running the test of time. Yeah,
that mic was the shotgun mic on the preliminary run.
Oh, really?
And the ME66. I think the first probably 4 or 5 productions, somewhere in there, I think it was the first 4 productions the ME66 was used.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great mic.
Yeah.
And it's been around for a long time. The lav mics, I beef the wires up because they get, they're not cheap. And then, the good ones are not cheap, but then it's like, they get damaged. They can get damaged pretty easy.
I would always take coat hangers. I'd cut a coat hanger, and coming off of the mic, I would electrical tape where it comes out of the mic to stiffen it up. So
that's a really good idea.
So, and a hunter would put it in it looks like hell, but the hunter puts it in the pocket, and what always would break them is they would get bent over. The cord to the mic itself would get bent over in the pocket. So I would take a coat hanger and I'd cut, ever so off of it, and I would just stiffen it up, and then it would almost form to the person if they're putting it in their back pocket. It would almost form, and dude, you'd get a year, 2 or 3 more years out of a cord just to beef it up that way. Yeah.
No, that's a really good idea. I've never done that, never thought of doing that, but that's a really good. That's a really good one. And then you've probably found, and there's a lot of places you can ship them into, and it's $50-$60 to get them redone, but that's a lot cheaper than what some of those cost.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and then you can have them beef them up at the same time to give them more durability. But that coat hanger idea, that's a very good idea.
It worked for a little bit.
Yeah.
Now it's all, we've used DJI mics, so there's no cords or nothing now. So single bevel cut on contact broadheads have been around since the Stone Age, and for good reason. One of the biggest advantages of a single bevel broadhead is what happens on impact. As they penetrate, they continue to rotate, cutting through the animal, resulting in deeper penetration and faster blood loss. With Helix broadheads, you can measure your recovery in seconds. Check out the FJ2 or the FJ4 available with bleeder blades by visiting helixbroadheads.com, and be sure to use the code TFP to save on your next purchase. So for the last year, I've been shooting Coulee arrows, premium arrows for every archer. Coulee Archery is known for their revolutionary black centrifugal weave, delivering unmatched durability, penetration, and downrange accuracy. Now, I shot 3 deer this year, all with either an Amphisi or an Ngulubi arrow, and I never broke one arrow. I can still shoot them. They're still good to go. I've been testing these arrows since last April, and the biggest thing that stood out was an extra pin down range. Even with the same spine and weight as my previous setup, these arrows fly truer, faster, and more consistently. The best part is Coulee has arrows for everyone, beginners, seasoned hunters, or competition shooters. If you're in the market for new arrows, check them out at CouleeArchery.com. And right now, for Fall Podcast listeners, use the code FALL15 at checkout to save on your next purchase. Coulee Archery, where innovation meets passion. I mean, Michigan Buck Pole is the home of Michigan hunters. You can share your harvest, browse stories from across the state, and filter by method, time of day, or county. Join the community at mibuckpole.com and follow at mibuckpole for updates and highlights. I got to ask about dumping footage. Do you guys dump footage every day? And
yeah,
you have to, right? Like you just feel like you have to, so you stay organized. You go in the next day with clear cards and just kind of keep going.
Yep. Yeah. Every night, all the footage gets dumped, and then it gets backed up as well, because as you are aware, I'm sure,
yes,
if you don't back it up, you're playing with a ticking time bomb there.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, the first couple productions, I mean, it's gone. And all I got is the DVD, because I was
really
so on a budget that I couldn't afford $150 extra backup drive. That, well, it went bad. So that's, you're playing with a ticking time. And I've had many of them go bad over the years. Every couple of years, you're getting enough of them. So always back, I would recommend that to anyone, is always back up your foot, so we'll dump the footage each night, and it gets backed up, and then that goes into another location, because if you get a fire, theft, anything like that. So that way you're always backed up for multiple scenarios.
Yeah.
So
I like it.
And then they're also triple backed up down the road, but at least in the field, they're double backed up. So.
Yeah. I love it, man. One more question. Anybody out there that's like listening to this, kind of, wanting to take their game, let's say filming, not editing, in the field, that's a lot of people are filming their hunts now, or filming with someone. What is one thing where you're like, really, really focus on this because it makes it better? Is it the audio part? Is it capturing tight, medium wides, getting good transition shots? Like, what is one thing that you're like, really, really hone in on this part because it'll make your editing process better? If there's one thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that varies between the individual, right? So just knowing the importance of multiple different aspects, okay, whether it's picture or sound, because that's what visual arts production is picture and sound. So we'll take it at its simplest form. Picture and sound, they're both very important. So obviously the audio side is very important, and what can we do there to enhance it? So let's say you've got the good gear, but your mic placement isn't very good. Well, that's an area to pay attention to in the field. But maybe one guy he's very on top of that, but maybe he's weak over here and he recognizes, hey, this is where I need to put some dirt in this hole. Just like I referenced earlier, like my wide sucked compared to Matt's spec, and then it's like, well, I recognize my wide suck. That's where I need to put some effort into, and maybe it's mids, maybe it's wides, mids, tights, maybe it's recognizing this is a compelling event unfolding and getting what you need there. I kind of mentioned that final hunt in the new season with Tanner with the big wide mule deer. Well, I dropped the ball as a filmer quite a bit on that hunt. And I talked about earlier I didn't like the recreation, or the, where it would cut. Well, on that particular hunt, I dropped the ball quite a bit in certain aspects. So, and I think everybody kind of catches it. There is some, not with the hunt itself. I did very well on the hunt itself with the animal, but there's some stuff that I knew, shoot, I should have been capturing this and that. And it's lower level. I think I did it in a way where it doesn't ruin the authenticity, because there is authenticity on the audio side of it. That's nothing recreated there, but there are some visuals to overlay on some stuff that got used that after the hunt, I was like, oh, I'm going to need this, and this, because I really was just enjoying myself on the hunt. Kind of like we were talking about, like, it's easy to get immersed in the hunt. And then like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
I should have been capturing a couple of sunset shots here, a couple of wides, or whatever it might be, the vehicle going up the road here or something. So yeah, we did, filmed quite a bit of that stuff. So I had some overlay to build that story, and it built really well, and it feels very, but that's the first time that I've really had to go back and like, because I dropped the ball as a filmer. Now I was able to, the whole hunt with the animal itself. Yeah, that was all. But some of the vehicle stuff and whatever I, did after, and like, I'm going to need that to build this into what actually took place in the 10 minutes leading up to what's this thing doing out here?
Yeah. Well, I think what's key though too is everybody take this away is like, you recognize, like, you guys killed this deer. You guys are you're ready to pop some beers. You're ready to do whatever and enjoy it. But you had the intuition to be like, well, shit, what else do I need before we really wrap this up? Because that's one thing that gets forgotten about, you work towards this goal so long, it happens, and it's like you get back to the edit bay and you're like, man, I really dropped the ball. Like you said, it's really taking a step back for a couple minutes and really going through and checking your boxes of like, did I get everything to make this the best way possible? If not, you might have to go find something and to film it, or might be a B-roll shot, might be something.
Yeah.
But recognizing that and going back is just going to make your edit way better.
Yeah, and that's kind of goes back to what the question is, like, what can a person do? But picking one, I mean, if you know what you're strong in, then dissecting, that's one thing. Like Matt, who's incredible, he'd call me and he'd be like, like, okay, they just like, maybe he filmed Chancey get one. They're giving me the debrief, I guess you could call it, like, and it's like, and then Matt, he'd be like, I'm so pissed at myself because I didn't, there's this wiggle. I wiggled right, and then I get it and edit, and I'm like, that's what I think, because he has that really dissecting. I think an individual that's really dissecting, like, that's the natural progression of, okay, putting dirt in those holes that's what makes. So as a film producer or producer, being able to recognize, like, okay, yeah, I'm really great at this, but this is where I'm weaker right now. Like, oh, I got sloppy with my mic placement, or whatever. I used to be much better at it, but it kind of slipped, and now I'm fighting audio in post because I'm not paying attention out in the field or whatever. So I think, and sometimes if it's too much, then a person doesn't hone in on any of it hardly, or do a great job at any, so yeah, that would be my recommendation is, okay, if you know what you're great at, dissect what needs some,
I like it.
some improvement. So
I like that a lot. Well, wrapping up here, Jared, can you give anybody a juicy, hey, new DVD or new? Well, I forgot. Let's talk about the rental now.
Oh yeah,
I forgot about. Dude, Jared, you're gonna love this. So I have Uncut. I have the DVD, and for last Friday night, long story. We're big.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yes, I think I know where you're going with this.
So well, I rented it off the website. I seen it on the phone or whatever, and I was like, I'm gonna go rent it. Well, the reason being is because I had to camp out in my truck all night because our 4-H, my daughter and my wife and she takes animals to the fair and everything. This is her first year taking her dairy feeder, and we were going to camp at the fair. Well, I spent 15 hours in my truck overnight to get the number one spot to be able to figure out where we can park or camp. Well, I rented it at like 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, I'm going to watch Uncuffed tonight. So I rented it, and I wanted everybody to know now you can do that, right? So
yeah. Was it good experience overall?
Loved
and everything?
It was way easy. Good. Like, because I was on my phone. There was no Wi-Fi or nothing. I went in there. The payment was easy. It went right to, like, I think it said, payment confirmed, went to my email. And literally right in the website, I could hit play, came up, boom. It was super easy. It was really convenient. So
yeah, I was surprised.
How's it going with that?
I think it's going. I haven't like overly, I sent one email out and have been doing some shorts lately, and I think it's, this time of year for deer content is not.
It's a bell curve. We're at the bottom of the bell right now.
It's like, obviously we've been DVD all these years. And, some people don't have a DVD player, and, this isn't maybe the ends all be all digital solution, but it's pretty slick the way it works. Technology is always advancing, and more, to get on those big platforms is a lot more hassle than what a person thinks. And the revenue, they get you pretty good.
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure.
The big platforms, most of them take 50%, but it's like, well, you got to front all the production costs, all the time, all the effort. That hurts. And that's one of the biggest challenges to going digital in our, obviously a lot of people are like, oh, go YouTube. Well, we'd have to change our entire, we'd have to do sponsors, partners, and begin to offer, probably some products of our own and to make up, but then that would begin to probably alter the authenticity of just guys going hunting and disrupt some of that. So, because I've looked at it, the ad revenue, if you're going to make it on that alone, it's difficult. Mm-hmm. So that's digital space. It's like, it's not as easy as just like, hey, I can upload it. And, it's been a very challenging space for us to move into. So yes, that rental thing, I'm pretty happy with how everything's working there. There's been a few underneath technical things on our side, but it seems overall the people have been having a really good experience with it.
Is the plan to put like the old features and everything on there too eventually, or?
Well, I would like to. So my tentative plan, which could shift depending on, unforeseen things potentially or whatever, but my plan is to launch one a week at least for several weeks here. And potentially, yes, that may be because I didn't go to school for production. I didn't do something that I should have done with all these projects over the years, which is export a QuickTime uncompressed master file. So
Jared, I went to school for production, and I still don't export.
Yeah,
that.
well,
when do you need it though?
Well, those files are very large, and most of the projects, I'm about out of space by the time I'm done with it. And well, I did that with Uncuffed, and I think that's the first project that I did that with.
An uncompressed file, all them, you're saying?
Yeah, so all them old projects, they are probably going to be a bit messy to open up and missing links and all of that stuff. So I can get... It might not be as bad as I think. Some of them are going to be bad. I already know that, but it might go smoother than I think. So potentially I can keep every single week, but at least for a while, I should be able to launch one a week. I plan to launch Uncuffed 2 this evening, actually.
Nice.
And then hopefully, one a week, and hopefully them old projects aren't too much of a pain to do that with. So yeah, I'll know more when I get into them, but I
sounds like you're a little hesitant about wanting to get into them.
Well, yes and no. I mean, the last thing you open up a project with thousands of files with media offline, lost links, that sometimes, that can link up pretty quick and easy, and sometimes not, and so, that could create a lot of, I mean, it has to happen at some point, but and I'll probably work backwards. I'm guessing, and on that. So
nice.
But now people can watch it instantly and from their phone or laptop or Chromecast AirPlay it, and more people are figuring out that that's not very difficult to do, or already know that that's not difficult to do, and seems like it's going pretty well. And hey, we love DVDs, and a lot of people still like DVDs and don't want us to stop the DVDs, so yeah,
I like it.
But that's a challenging.
Any tentative releases on the new piece that you're coming out with?
I mean,
I know I don't want to stick you. I don't want to paint you in a corner or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to get my head wrapped around a lot of things. As you were talking about early on, it's like, it's a lot of, there's a lot of hats to get, I'm learning more on this new front of social media, how to do things, shorts, there's quite a bit of learning that I'm trying to get my head wrapped around there, and different aspects. So I know what happens when you get immersed into a big project, and unfortunately it's hard to do everything all at, once. So, I don't want to put a date out on that. It's mainly going to be bow content. It's going to be a smaller seat, but it was a really, it's got some pretty awesome stuff in it again. So,
I can't wait, man. I can't wait.
Yeah. But,
good deal.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for giving me your time today, dude. Honestly, I could keep
having
going.
me on.
For sure.
Yeah.
I could keep going longer and longer. And I will say Matt and Chancey are on my list of guys I'd love to have on too. So if you have any pull there, if they would like to do it, I'd like to reach out to them. So,
I'll let them know. I'll probably be I'll probably be talking to Chancey today. So I'll let him know, and
Yeah.
I'll let Matt know. But Matt's pretty, he's pretty kind of, you know, uh, he's an adventurous, and he's very low key. So I mean,
That's what
he
intrigues me. That's what
yeah.
wants him more, because I'm like, he's so talented, and he's
Yes.
like one of those guys that you really don't hear much about in the production
Yeah.
world, but he needs to be told more about because he is so talented.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I love watching his stuff. And I feel like as the DVDs went on too, he gets more and more like opens up a little bit.
Yeah.
And Chancey
Yeah.
brings it out of him. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love this. You know?
Yeah. Definitely seen that over the years, him getting more comfortable with, you know,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's like speaking his mind or his intensity, because he's got a very intense side. And definitely seen that, you know,
Yeah.
come out more. And Chancey definitely has that very, you know,
I've always said, I've
it's
never told
interesting.
Chancey, but people that have listened to this podcast, Chancey's my spirit animal. I want to be Chancey in my next life. Like, I love everything that he's about.
You know, you pair the right person to, that's an interesting thing we didn't talk about in production, but like watching an individual, you mentioned it here a minute ago, how they can pull that out of another person, figuring out the dynamics between, this person and this person, they bring each other out more in a certain sense or a certain way, or not. That's not, like my cousin Jim, he's another one.
I was just going to say, dude, if you would have came out with somebody other than Jim the first couple years, I don't know if it would have came off the way it did.
Yeah.
You know? And then Shay was another one. Shay was like, you just kind of, you got some crazy cool family members.
Yeah. Well, you know, like, interesting thing with Jim is, and that really helped, I think, keep the authenticity grounded early on, was he didn't care. You know, he didn't care about, he had no interest and desire to really be involved in the hunting industry as like a job or whatnot. He loves hunting, and he loved being a part of the production, but doing his own thing over here, land surveying and whatnot. Well, that gave, I recognized that early on, that gave aspect of authentic hunter, not trying to portray something, that's just being his true, organic, authentic self, not concerned. There was something I recognized early on with that I was like, oh, that's unique, because most of the time in hunting content, at least back in that era, it's somebody trying to get their foot into the industry or something. So I think image and all of that was, a person would more often be concerned with that, or come across kind of forced on video. But he was just like, didn't care, so it gave that very authentic, and I definitely recognized that early on. And I was like, that's great, fit. So,
will we see a Jim or a Shay cameo anytime soon?
Yes. Is Jim's in the new one. He, for the first time, uncuffed. He only did one hunt that year, and it was like, Matt filmed it. They were in Colorado, and he was out there for a week, and the hunt was, I kept waiting to and the hunt got over, and Matt was like, I wouldn't even touch it. Because there's, I mean, we didn't get on any, So for the first time, Jim wasn't in uncuffed. He's back in the new one a bit, but, and then the next one, I don't think he's in the next one, because that's mainly bow. So I don't think we got anything in there, but we're going to try to, even if we shift, which we have more to bow focus, it's like one gun hunt a year would be really cool. And then yes, Jim, he's a perfect gun
Yes, love it.
gun hunter fit. Yeah.
Out of bullets, doesn't matter. I need
Yeah.
you guys to go back to Wisconsin. You need to get into the poison sumac again. So your face all blows up. Remember that
Yeah,
one?
oh,
where
yeah. Yeah.
Doing deer drives.
I had enough of that. I missed the swamps, but I'm sure I'll do that again sometime. But we were also having a little more success in the hills at that time. So between the poison sumac, the eye getting swollen shut, and we're doing pretty good in the hills, I kind of put the swamps to the side for a while.
I don't blame you. I like to stay dry. I don't like the swamps.
Yeah.
So, well, cool. Jared, I'm going to let you go, man. Thank you so much again. And
Absolutely. Thanks.
Tell everybody where they can find you to rent and everything and get your merch and all that stuff.
Yeah. whitetail-adrenaline.com, right on our website. It's right there. The rental. I said we're moving into on a video a couple weeks ago when I launched it. I said we're moving into the DVD rental. It's not a DVD rental; it's a digital rental. So,
yes, you can watch it right after you purchase. Trust me,
Yes.
I've done it. So,
yep. So, and then some of the social medias like Instagram, Facebook, and whatnot. So
cool, man.
But yeah.
Well, good luck this editing season going into fall. Good luck. Hopefully everything works out, and can't wait to see the new DVD.
Yeah.
Or new
thank you.
feature, I'm going to call it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you bet, man. Thank you.
You bet.